Good evening, Arizona. I'm Patty Kirkpatrick. The small Arizona town of Colorado City may be approaching the boiling point. For decades, people have been practicing polygamy there in an atmosphere that many on the outside call just downright abusive. But now, as Mike Watkiss tells us, power struggles inside the town are on the verge of turning violent. Mike?
Yes, indeed, Patty. Even with a stepped-up law enforcement presence here along the Arizona-Utah border today, still plenty of concerns, plenty of questions in Colorado City after the town's polygamous prophet took a rather extraordinary step this past weekend, kicking out about 20 of the town's most prominent polygamous men, including, perhaps most shockingly, the town's longtime mayor, Dan Barlow, a guy we have come to know very well over the course of very many years.
What is the community? It's a community in America where people live and enjoy life and go forward and raise their families and try to do the things that please as their God.
For nearly 20 years, he has been the public face and the public voice for a very private people. Colorado City Mayor Dan Barlow, the longtime representative and spokesperson for thousands of practicing polygamists along the Arizona-Utah border.
My father was one of the founders of this community, and there's a big family of the Barlow family. And I consider we're as much a part of America as anyone else.
But now, as we reported earlier this week, Mayor Dan Barlow apparently no longer a member of his own community, as this past weekend, in a shocking move, Dan Barlow and some 20 other prominent polygamous men were kicked out of Colorado City's fundamentalist church, an edict laid down by the town's polygamous prophet Warren Jeffs, an edict that now means Dan Barlow and the other ousted men stand to lose all of their plural wives, their many children, and their right to live in town.
And so they've taken my wife away.
Former Colorado City resident Jason Williams says he knows all about losing a family to the whims of the polygamous prophet. A couple of years ago, Jason also fell out of favor with Warren Jeffs, and Jason says before he knew it, his wife, the woman he loved and the mother of his two children, was given by Warren Jeffs to another man who already had a wife and kids.
They picked her husband. She had nothing to do with her new husband until he shows up on the doorstep, said the prophet sent me to marry you.
Jason fought for custody of his children in court and won. And now the question, will a new fight erupt in Colorado City given this latest community shakeup and given what many perceive as the increasingly paranoid behavior of the town's prophet Warren Jeffs, a man who recently erected an 8-foot wall around his sprawling compound. This week, sheriff's deputies from Mojave County, Arizona, and Washington County, Utah, highly visible along the border to keep the peace. Also on hand, investigators from the Attorney General's office in Utah and Arizona, and an agent from the Federal Office of Homeland Security, all closely monitoring the situation, a situation that now ex-Mayor Dan Barlow probably never could have imagined during this earlier interview.
Because we have a strong home structure. And those kind of things help. We have a strong community feeling. And those things are good. They're the things that America's lost.
And you come back to us here along the Arizona-Utah border, perhaps the biggest mystery at this point, Patty. Where is Dan Barlow? And several of his brothers who are also ousted. Even law officers can't seem to find them. It's doubtful that they will go off quietly into the night. People up here still waiting for the next shoe to drop.
And their wives and children are still there, right?
Well, the houses that they occupy seem to be vacant. We talked to some of the cops who are very anxious to talk to Dan Barlow, not because he's done anything wrong, but they want to talk to him about Warren Jeffs. They can't seem to find him. They don't know where his the families are. There were some rumors that Mr. Barlow may be staying in a hotel in St. George, Utah, but nobody really knows at this point.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Mike Watkiss.